gonna sit here and talk to my webcam for as long as I feel like doing it. I didn't really plan on what I'm gonna say, but I just feel like I got a lot of stuff that I don't say to anyone. So I'm just gonna say it to my computer, because I spend most of my time in front of my computer. Almost every day I spend at least like 8 hours, if not more, because I work in front of my computer. I work from home, and I have my personal computer at the same desk as my work computer, so it's just I'm always looking at YouTube and other random stuff, listening to music, looking at Write Your Music, the website, looking at social media, looking at my phone, obviously, for Instagram. None of it is productive. We know this. A lot of people have the same issue where it's just we're staring at our screens, not experiencing the world as it's meant to be experienced, just through the filter of a screen, because it's easier to I don't need to wear these, I'm not listening to anything. It's easier to just half experience life by curating what you actually look at and creating a false image of yourself that you can, it's like a feedback loop. You can create a false image of yourself, look at how people respond to it, adjust it, look at how other people present themselves in this virtual fashion, and none of it's real. It's all separate from what happens in the actual real world, which is just way more nuanced. Actually talking to people in real life and feeling emotions that are connected to another person's well-being rather than your own. I'm still figuring it out, but I've realized that I'm a very atomized individual. I'm very, very alone. I spend almost all my time alone. And it comes from years of trauma, but it also is just what feels comfortable to me, not being perceived by others. Again, just because it's easier. And even though I know it only makes me worse off in the long run, I still do it because it's a habit at this point. It's how I've lived for so many years that I just need to force myself to break out of it if I want it to stop, because I behave like a creature taking the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is just being alone so that you don't affect other people. Because I have myself so convinced that I've got some badness in me that the idea of subjecting other people to myself is feels wrong. It feels like it's irresponsible, which is ridiculous, and I know it is. I'm just always kind of debating with myself in my head about how to fix all of this. And the answer isn't something logical. The answer is very illogical, which is to just stop and just do the thing that feels bad and scary and wrong, because in your heart of hearts you know it's right. Which, to me is loving people. I know that to have a happy, fulfilled life, you need to express love. And it starts with yourself, and it expands outwards to your friends and your family, and then eventually to your life partner, whomever that may be, your lover. Which is, that's the thing that we all get caught up on, like that's the most important love in your life. And in some senses it is, but it's never going to be what it needs to be if you don't have that sort of backbone, that structure of love elsewhere. Because if it's just you and your partner, and maybe you're both atomized individuals, it's just unhealthy. It's just neither of you is going to be able to separate from the other. So yeah, and yeah, that's the problem I've had for a while, is focusing too much on my life partner, on my love interests, who I think are actually going to be the person I end up with, that I've been neglecting all of my other sources of love. And yeah, it's left me for the worse, and it's taken years of sadness to realize what I'm doing. And it's a slow realization. I've known kind of in the back of my mind, even when I was younger, that I had issues that needed to be dealt with, but I just kind of shut it away, thinking I could force myself to just live beyond it, as if not addressing that is going to make things okay. When it's not. It's not how you make things okay. You have to face your problems head on. You have to face your fears, as they say, and just move through them until you've conquered them. And it's scary, but it's what needs to be done. I had a dream last night, or this morning really. It's like 2 in the afternoon. I woke up at like 7:30 a.m., got on a work meeting for an hour, and then I went back to sleep for like 5 hours. And that's a strange thing when you go back to sleep after having already slept a night, waking up in the morning and then going back to sleep. Your dreams are always more vivid, at least I've found. That's the way that you can lucid dream, supposedly, is by having had a full night's sleep and then trying to re-enter that dream state once you've awoken once in the morning. So that was kind of, I think, what was happening. And it happened to me before, so I'm pretty sure it's a repeatable sort of effect. But yeah, I had a very vivid dream about my family. And I was with my mom and my brother in our childhood home, and me and my brother's childhood home where we grew up in Texas. And we were just doing normal stuff, hanging out, like I do when I go see them in real life, which is unfortunately not as often as I'd like it to be. But yeah, we're just hanging out, eating out at fast food restaurants like I've done all my life. And there was a moment where my mom was in the kitchen, and I don't remember what she was doing. She was struggling with something. She was like frustrated about it was the dishwasher. She had tried to wash the dishes. She ran the dishwasher and then realized hours later that it didn't run for some reason. And she started getting upset, only mildly frustrated. She's like, why did this happen? I can't believe the dishwasher's messed up or whatever. But then she just kind of like fell to her knees on the ground. Or maybe she was already on the ground, like looking at the dishwasher. And then I got on the ground next to her, on my knees, and I just grabbed her and I hugged her. I held her like well, I grabbed her hand with one arm, or I grabbed her arm with one of my hands, and then with my other arm I reached and grabbed, like, kind of put it on her shoulder, and then we were just there, kind of in like a half embrace, and I just started crying. I just started crying, really, really, not even like a really full-on cry, just like tears kind of come into your eyes type cry where you're still holding it in. And my mom, I think, cried too in my dream. And I don't think that's ever happened in real life. It's this, and I think it's something I need to do in real life. Because last time I saw her, just this past Christmas, I saw her in Florida, and I really wanted to ask her the whole time I was there about my childhood and her divorce with my dad and just her life in general, whether or not she feels happy and fulfilled, or if she's actually really sad deep down, because I'm afraid she is. And I wanted to ask the same to my dad. He was there too, actually. They were both there, and I didn't ask him. I'm afraid to confront anything real and even remotely intimate in any way, because it's just not how I was raised when I was young. The sort of real rawness of emotion and relationships was never addressed at all in my family, in my friendships. And I would cry about being sad about stuff, or like, I hurt myself on my bike, or like something embarrassing happened to me at school, and I cry about it, when I was a kid. But then there was one time when I was a teenager, like 13 or 14, and I don't remember what exactly was going on in my life at the time. That age, you're thinking about all your relationships with your friends and how cool you are at school. And I just felt really dissatisfied about something, and there was one night, again, I was in high school, still lived with my mom, and she was like out in the living room, and I walked out of my bedroom, and I just was like, Mom, I'm really, really sad, and I don't know why. And she just kind of, I don't remember exactly what she said immediately, but she did embrace me. She hugged me, and she said, it'll be okay. Everything will be okay. Everyone gets sad sometimes. And I think about that experience a lot, because that's like kind of the only time I ever did that. The only time I ever like really opened up to her. And she responded how she should have. I feel like, I wasn't, for some reason I wasn't prepared to actually tell her what was going on. I don't remember now what I was sad about. It was probably some girl problem at school. Girl I didn't like me back or whatever. And I just got, existentially sad as a result, because even at that young age, 13 or 14, I still was like, or I already was, obsessed with the idea of romantic love and my future wife or girlfriend, or future wife who I'm gonna marry and stuff. Because it's what's in media, it's what's in movies and TV, and it's what people talk about. It's what people fantasize about. Romantic love and our life partners, and everyone wants to have a happily ever after. And I was still so young, I didn't understand any of it yet. But I still had this innate sadness surrounding it, because, I don't know why. Maybe it's because my parents divorced, and I never understood why they did. think I know why. I think it's just because my dad is kind of shitty. And I'm afraid that I get that from him. And I say kind of shitty because he's a nice enough guy. He never hurts anyone. He's never mean in any way. He just exists and seems to kind of be a little selfish in regards to like how he spends his time. You know, he's an old man now, so, and he's married to some other woman who is okay, I guess. She's also got issues too, but that's a separate thing. He clearly cares about us, clearly cares about my future and my well-being, and I think it still comes from kind of a selfishness where he sees me as, you know, his progeny and wants me to be successful, whatever that means, and he can sort of revel in my own success. Whenever I tell him about playing music, he's like, oh, my son's a rock star, that's so cool, blah, blah. And I'm like, Dad, you don't get it. Because I don't think he does. I think even at his ripe old age of 64 or something, he's 66 now, I think he's turning 66 this year, which is crazy. He still is like kind of, he's got a barrier set up in front of his real emotions. I saw him cry at my grandfather's funeral, his father's funeral, a year or two ago, and he said in like a little speech he was giving at the burial, he said that he looked up to his dad a lot and never told him, and that was his main sadness. I think that was what he was crying about, was the fact that he never told his dad how much he meant to him, how much he looked up to him and stuff. And I hadn't seen my dad cry like that, I feel like, ever. I think maybe the last time was when my parents were getting divorced and he was like saying goodbye to me and my brother. I remember him crying then. But this time, yeah, it felt very, very sad because, you know, my grandpa was then dead and my dad was just reckoning with the fact that he never told him how he really felt about him. And, yeah, that's awful. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to grow up and be like how my dad is. Because as much as I do love him and he loves me, I feel like he's kind of resigned himself to a life of mediocrity. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being average or mediocre or not being successful in some grand way, as long as you have real love and relationships in your personal life that make you feel fulfilled. But I don't think he has that. I don't think he feels as connected with his new wife and stepkids that are, stepkids, they're his stepchildren. He has 2 stepkids that are my step-siblings now. I don't think he's as connected with them as he was with us, and I don't think he's as connected with us being his kids, me, my brother, my sister, as he is with himself. I think he thinks about himself a lot. And a lot of people do. We're all wrapped up in our heads trying to, because I think it's the only thing we have, is our experience that we have in our heads, and it can be very enveloping, very all-consuming, living in your own head. I think my dad might do some of that. I don't know. thing is, I don't know for sure. I'm not a psychotherapist, and I don't know him as well as I'd like to know him. And my mom has, I think, similar issues with the whole being emotionally vulnerable, but not as much. My mom is very, very caring. She worked so hard to raise me and my brother, specifically us two, because we were very troublesome when we were younger. And I felt that all growing up, how much she cared about us, and I still feel it now. But she doesn't show it, like, expressly. It's through her actions and through just her presence. You can feel it. But we're just not the type of people to talk about these things for some reason. It's just never how we've been. I don't want to be like that anymore. I want to be a very, not just upfront, but open. I want to be an open and honest person with people, and I haven't been for pretty much my whole life. Like, there's flashes of it. I have moments where I can break through, and it never comes out how I want it to, because it's all of these bottled up thoughts and emotions just exploding out all at once, because that's just how it's just what's started to happen to me. Because, yeah, you bottle it up for years and years, it's got to go somewhere eventually. Bottle up and explode. When I saw my mom in Florida this last year on Christmas, like I said, I wanted to talk to her the whole time about a lot of this stuff and just try and have a real conversation with her and my dad, but mostly with her, because I feel like she's the one I'm closer with, because, well, she's my mom. Dads are just more, they're men. And my mom is, as a result of being raised a woman, just more emotionally in tune, more emotionally available, even if she does have her issues. That's just, it's a thing that happens to women because they're forced to learn when they're very young how to respond to people, because they're just so policed at a young age. And so my mom has obviously some of that in her, but she's still very quiet, reserved, and she's kind of a homebody. She plays video games on her Nintendo Switch, Stardew Valley mostly, and then she watches TV shows. She watches lots of just random shitty TV shows that she's like, I'm watching just some stupid show, I don't even really care about it. She just puts stuff off in the background. It's just mind-numbing, escapist entertainment, because she doesn't really have anything else to do with her life other than be with her family, which is, what she wants to do. She's always just trying to hang out with my brother, and obviously my sister and my sister's baby, because, why wouldn't you want to hang out with your progeny, your kin? But I worry that she has a really sad life and she's unfulfilled, and I might be projecting, because that's not something you can ask your mom, right? I don't know. Maybe others would disagree. Maybe people who have healthy relationships with their family would be like, oh, yeah, just talk to your parents if you're afraid for them, or if you think they're sad or whatever. But, like, what am I supposed to do if she's secretly horribly depressed? I don't know. She's, like, also, like, 60-something now. 62. You can still get depressed at that age, right? It's possible. And so I just try and spend as much time with her now as I can, because I feel like that's really what she wants, is just to see me and the rest of her family and her, other immediate family members. She has a bunch of brothers, and her mom is still alive in California, and she sees them as often as she can. But when I was there for 2 weeks, I couldn't find a good moment. Well, I had plenty of opportunities, really. I just was afraid to bring up to her all of my concerns about my future and how I'm living my life. Because I see it going in a negative direction, and I don't want it to, and I need to regain control. And I think understanding my parents and their relationship would at least give me some insight into myself, but I don't know. I spend so much time thinking about myself already that it doesn't seem like the answer is in me. I think I'm beyond that. I think the answer is external, just separating from my own brain and living in the real world, as difficult as it is. I keep trying to talk about one specific thing and I can't get to it. So I was there for 2 weeks in Florida with my family, with my mom, and then on the last day, when my mom drove me to the airport, we were talking about my brother and what he's doing with his life, and he's got a lot of issues. And so I worry about him. She worries about him. My whole family worries about him because he's still doesn't have a job, and he lives with my mom on her dime. And he's basically my age. He's 27, and well, he's turning 28 actually. He needs to get a job. So we were talking about that, how, and I was telling her about how, I can see that he's got some really pent-up issues regarding relationships with people. I don't think he has very many friends. So he needs to just break out of that cycle by forcing himself out of the house, making connections, getting a job, and then having a real life. And she agreed with me, and I was telling her just like, I understand that spiral, that sort of downward spiral one can be on, where you feel bad about yourself, and so you don't do anything, you just kind of resign to being lazy and unproductive, and then you feel worse as a result of that, and then it's just a spiral downwards where you just feel worse and worse and worse, and you just keep getting worse, and it's scary. It's hard to break out of. I'm still trying to break out of it, but I feel like I can see it. I feel like I can separate myself from it and look at it from like a third-person perspective and sort of see it happening to me, and that gives me some sense of understanding or control. Even though I haven't really put in the effort to fix it, I still feel like I can understand it, and dissecting it makes me think that I have some kind of power or something. And so I was basically telling my mom that, my brother needs to do the same, break out just some way. And it's not easy. Didn't have an actual solution, didn't have an actual answer to say, just that something needs to change. Because that's the main case, is just making some kind of significant change, I think is really just the answer. Just completely removing yourself from your current state, however you've existed, that's led you to this point. It just has to stop. And she agreed. And we both were just kind of sad for my brother in the moment, thinking about just how difficult life is. And even in that moment, I wanted to ask my mom, like, but we were already almost to the airport at this point. I wanted to ask her what, basically I just wanted to ask her whether she's happy, whether she is fulfilled. But I didn't, because it's a scary question to ask someone. It's a scary question to ask your parents, because I feel like I'm failing them by not being happy. Like it's my duty to have a happy, successful, fulfilled life, or else their lives were for nothing. Because neither of them really accomplished much beyond raising 3 kids. And they only half raised 2 of them. And I can see how if that's all you have to look back on, that you're going to put a lot of pressure on those kids. But I don't feel pressured. I just know that the pressure is almost certainly there. Because I don't know for sure. I don't know anything. But yeah, when we got to the airport, me and my mom, we said goodbye. I climbed out of the car and I was like, I'll come see you again as soon as I can. And I think I will go see her again this year for her birthday in April, because I just need to see her more often. And yeah, then I hugged her when I was saying bye, and she hugged me, and it was a hug that was a little longer than our usual hugs. And I really said, I said to her, just like right here, I love you, Mom. And then she said, I love you too, dear. And I heard her voice break just slightly. And that made me just want to just break down right there. But I had to hold it in and walk into the airport. And then I walked in the airport and started feeling tears in my eyes and all that. But my mom doesn't cry like that. I don't ever see. I don't think I ever saw that when I was younger. I saw my dad cry a few times when I was younger, but my mom has always held it in. I don't know what makes her cry, but I know how to make her cry is just by saying that I love her to her as sentimentally and meaningfully as I can. Because what else is there besides love? I know that's all she wants and needs. That's all anyone needs. I don't know why I'm recording this. I've been in a really bad place for a really long time. And I don't tell anyone about it. I don't tell my friends about it. I told my ex-girlfriend about it as much as I could bear to say. And I think she gets it, but I don't think anyone really has ever really known me fully. I still don't know myself fully. I'm still not my full self yet. I'm still becoming who I am at this old ass age. I'm not that old. I'm really not that old. I just feel my life getting away from me, so I frame it like that because I'm just catastrophic. I can't be chill. I can't just be chill about things. I really do feel so much. We all do, right? You have to come to terms with your own feelings and just not shut them away. You just have to feel them, be them. You have to exhibit them. You have to be honest with your feelings, with yourself, and with others. And I try to. I try to do that, but it just ends up with me, like I said, just bottling things up and then exploding all at once, because I don't like to. I feel like it's just got to be a big, meaningful gesture of some kind. But it doesn't. Real love happens in the small things every day. It happens with how you treat yourself. It happens with how you treat your friends and acquaintances, your coworkers, your roommates and housemates, and your family. I still have so much to learn. I know I do. Sometimes I feel like I know everything I need to know, and I got it all figured out. It's just not true. I've learned a lot in my 20s. I've learned a lot. I'm only just kind of starting to piece together what any of it actually means. You know, it's just all tons of information coming in all the time. It has been. And I feel like everything that I learn is useful because it's new information, and everything has some truth if it's a fact or if it's observed in the real world or whatever. But not everything is useful. Not every piece of information is important. I need to learn how to focus on what really matters and what I really care about, which is not everything. I spend a lot of time and energy thinking about and looking at, observing, talking about stuff that I don't care about, because I see other people talking or thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, that's something that is important or whatever. I'm thinking like art and movies and music and stuff that people do in real life, like drugs and alcohol and sex, and there's only some examples of those things that are actually real and important. Most music, most movies and TV shows are not meaningless, but aren't worth thinking too much about, aren't worth giving too much time to. And that's part of being, it's part of being an artist, but it's a part of just being a human and living a fulfilling life, is learning to just cut out all the bullshit and focus on what is actually important to you. I spend a lot of time looking for new artists and people on the internet who make things that I think are interesting, but I've already found so many interesting, creative thought-provoking, life-affirming pieces of art. I don't need to be out there searching for more of it. It's just going to leave me overstimulated. Yeah, I'm rambling a lot now. Again, I don't know why I was talking to my webcam. I was just, thoughts, they build up, they build up. I've just been having a horrible day, and I needed to say something. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's all been coming to a head recently. And I have no one else but myself now. It's just me. Me and my relationship with myself. And I have to learn to love myself. I have to come to terms with who I'm looking at. I'm looking at myself in the webcam right now, what I look like. I need to shave my face. But, yeah. I need to love myself. However I am, however I'm existing currently. I need to just have compassion for all my own shortcomings, even when they hurt me and when they hurt others. I need to still hold on to the love that's kind of underneath all of it. And it gets really hard sometimes. The love gets buried down underneath a bunch of bullshit, and you have to dig it out. But it's always going to be there, even when you're old and dying. That love force. I just have to hold on to it. As hard as it is to do, I have to hold on and just keep going. Because horses don't stop, they keep going.